Welcome to Business Mastery with Dawn Kennedy, your quick under 45-minute dose of expert insights and strategies to make a positive impact on your business and life. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. Today, we are talking all things art and science of customer retention and why this should be a huge part of your business efforts is keeping your clients and keeping them happy. And I have Adam here to jump in and talk to us about the things we should be doing to keep our customers happy. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Don. I mean, we were just talking about how this topic is so important, and both of us nerd out about these things all day. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Me too. Can you tell everyone who you are and who you serve?
Of course. My name is Adam Ortman. I'm the founder of Kinetic319, which is a media buying agency. We focus on, mid to large size businesses in the United States as well as globally. We really pack everything that we do within consumer psychology. So the fact that we're talking about art and science here is spot on for what we do at Kinetic.
Amazing. So before we dive into some of like the niche things we were going to talk about, let's talk about just from the beginning, what the perception is out in the marketplace that you just offer a product or service and you get these clients and they onboard and they come into your company. What else do people need to be considering though, as they're acquiring customers initially?
Well, I think that they need to be really looking at the full journey. So acquisition is incredibly important. Obviously, it's the lifeblood for many businesses, but it's also about what is that experience for the customer when they are, starting to work with you all, whether that is just a tangible purchase or even an ongoing service, right? So how do you re-engage those individuals through their lifetime? How do you really start focusing on like an LTV or a lifetime value of a customer? So I think where there's so much focus on the very, very front end of the system in that acquisition, we really need to be looking at the full life cycle of how a business really interacts and maintains relationships with their customers.
So why do you think most people focus on just that initial acquisition?
It's the easy play.
Okay.
It's the easy thought, right? I get more customers, I get more sales. Right. I think that that's the reason why. And I think that's just the psychology behind, I need more business. I need to double my customer base and more money will come in the door. But the crux of that is that when you are focusing on that, you're actually expending quite a bit to attract and get them. And there might be some opportunities to potentially increase your profitability or your revenue from customers that you already have or had in the past. So yeah, it's easy to just say, I need more clients, right?
Right.
Or I need more
Right.
customers. Yeah.
So you were talking about lifetime value, and then of course there's a cost of acquisition and those things. Can we talk about some of the values that people don't know they need to look at when they're doing their marketing? Maybe they don't have the tracking, or if they see those numbers come in, maybe they have some auto, like a lot of the e-commerce, they will have those kinds of pieces of data kind of in their reporting. But if you don't know what they are, how to look at them and what you should be evaluating, there may be a lot of opportunity for businesses to miss the information they need.
Yeah. Yeah. So the front end metrics that a lot of folks focus on, which is kind of that CAC, the cost to acquire a customer. When you tie that to advertising or marketing, how many people are visiting my website? What are they doing on my website? Time on site is a great indicator of genuine interest. Your conversion rates on your website, whether that is a purchase or lead generation. And then the deeper metrics that I think what we're talking about is that people ignore is, you know, what is that ongoing purchase of that specific customer? And that really goes back to that LTV or that lifetime value of that customer. But also, this is something that I tell my clients all the time, and it is so easy and so valuable. Talking about like as much juice from the squeeze as you could get, survey your clients, reach out to them and just ask them questions about their priorities and motivations, potential new products that are coming out. your customers want to interact with you as a business. And honestly, if you were to just give them a scale of how to rate you, that is a great indicator of how you can look at more loyalty based metrics
Yeah.
rather than just a monetary value. Because the art and the science that comes in here is that, yes, I surveyed my clients and all of them gave me 5 stars. Great. That is the quantitative amount that you're getting. But you're also getting so much art out of this, which is understanding how they live their lives, what are their pain points, what are the values that your business is providing to them as customers. And that allows you to better serve them, but also allows you to close the loop and get more customers like them because you're getting this insight. It's amazing. So
Yeah,
survey your customers. That's a great point.
right. Right. Well, I was going to also kind of bring that up in the idea that you can segment your customers as well based on some of those
1000%.
information. So there are certain businesses that have a longer buy cycle where they may buy something and then you may not see
Yeah.
them for a year or two. And then you have the ones where it's like every quarter, or every month or something, there's something new to buy. Um, so I think by collecting some of that loyalty data, as you were talking about, people can segment and I hate to use the word target. I don't know. It seems, but you are targeting, the
Yeah.
sales to the people who would be most interested. So you're just making
There's always an 80/20. So
okay.
usually the top 20% of your customers are generating 80% of your business. That's typically the case. And that is a great segment to pull out and say, I want to get more of this 20%. How do I get more of these folks? But also, how do we better serve them and keep them loyal to us? Because keeping them as customers, I would bet a lot of money is a lot cheaper than going out and finding new customers.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. So let's say that
Yeah.
new customers come to you with, I don't even know if Groupon's around anymore, but let's say that they try your product or they try your service because they get free shipping or 15% off, or
Yeah.
you're do using affiliates or something. Once you get them in the door, though, you were saying that increased profitability would come from that repeat business. Like, can we talk a little bit about that
It's
and how
so
much it
important.
gets you people?
It's so important because having a customer that you already have in your back pocket that's happy, that wants to continue to buy from you, you're not having to continuously spend an expense like on Google, for example, to re-engage this person. You are having fluid conversations, maybe through email or your SMS platform, whatever it is. Where advertising, Don, you know this, is getting wildly more expensive year over year over year. So those costs are astronomical when you're talking about how much am I going to spend in some. I mean, we have an attorney client that is national. They have offices all over the country. The one click on their ad is $512 because of how competitive that specific personal injury attorney type
Space.
keyword is. And so you're thinking about, that's one person I'm paying to get to my website, and I need many people to come to my website. So you're wanting to really activate on both sides. How do I continue to get conversions or sales loyalty from my existing base? Well, keeping an eye on my acquisition, which is still important, but I think that so many businesses just leave the latter behind, and it makes me sad. Those
Makes
customers,
sense.
those customers are like gold mines for you. Yeah.
So let's talk about some ways in the art and science of customer retention that you can keep a happy customer and get referrals that you don't have to pay, per click for. And some, other ways that you can leverage those happy customers to grow your business. Again, in the motivation of service. And we like doing business with you. You're a customer that's, an ideal client or a good fit. Do you know more clients? Is there some kind of loyalty program? Those kinds of things. How often are you seeing those, or are they being implemented? Or what are your thoughts around maybe putting in some kinds of programs like that?
I'm a very big fan of them, and it's a little bit of a mixed bag. So we have clients that do it. There's also clients that don't, and I think it really is one of the main things that I always give advice for on this topic is just to ask, just to say, hey, we would like, if you would like to refer to us, a referral, we would love that. And I think that so many businesses are so shy about asking that question. And you can ask it with tact, right? You can be very respectful in doing that. And there's many different incentive options to do that as well. That if you never ask, you're never going to get. And so that makes that just ask the question. But also those programs that you were talking about, the referral programs. If you bring in a new customer, you get X% off of the subscription service or whatever it is, or 10% off your next purchase or whatever. So those are really, really important. But I do want to go back to the survey that we were talking about, because that includes so much value. You could ask your customers, where are they spending time online? What types of social media platforms are they on? And this allows you to fine tune your targeting to go get more customers. So ask them about their media and their lives, kind of how they live, whether that is what channels are you watching on TV, what social media platforms are you on, what blogs are you reading? And then you're now able to say, my customers, you're painting this profile, this persona profile that you're building on your customers. You're then able to say, I'm going to interject my message and align it with the information and the insight that I have. So I think loyalty and stimulating loyalty in a lot of ways, communication is really important. So email them, SMS, text message them if that's appropriate, but also make it valuable to them, I think is really important. You need to add that value. You can't just send a newsletter that means nothing to them and gives them nothing. The referral types of relationships are really, really important. The survey information is really, really important. And then also uh, uh, involve them in your kind of your business future and what that means. And I love this type of topic because we just did something like this about 6 months ago with a client where we were going a few different directions with their next branding strategy. So they were looking to redo their logo. They were looking to redo some of their look and feel of their branding. And we asked their top 20% of their customers. So we said, hey, which one do you prefer? And
Okay.
they ultimately made the decision. But we got so much great feedback from that because their customers felt involved. And when they were out and they see the new branding out in the wild, they're like, I saw that and they asked me about that and I see it now. And the business that I am doing business with respects my opinion, which is really interesting. I really liked that exercise. Really liked it.
Yeah, let's talk about the strategy of things like these types of surveys. You said that you talked to the top 20% of their customers.
As a very easy example, yes.
Yeah, so the strategy of something like this would be, when do you send these types of surveys? Is this something where you survey your customers once a year? Is it every 6 months? Is it within 3 weeks of closing the deal or finishing the project or, completing the sale? What are your thoughts on that? Is it better to be involved sooner and then do something like a long survey later? Kinda how do we wanna think about this, to
It's
implement
good.
these estimates?
First and foremost, there's free platforms. You could do this through Microsoft Forms. You could do this through Google Forms. I think it's also called Google Forms. We use Microsoft, but there's a free way of doing this. You can just send your customers a link and they can fill in the survey that you create. But the timing and the length is important. So we do ours with our clients. We ask them a single question: would you refer us to a friend or colleague out of a rating out of 10? And if they have more time, they can expand and give us more information. So we give them the option, right? So we make it very, very easy. And if they do want to give us more information, we have the ability to do that. We do that in May and in November. So basically every 6 months. And that works really, really well. But it's going to be different for every business that you work with, because if you have a very high churn of a business or maybe fewer touch points, shorter longevity, you might want to do it more frequently because you want to get in front of that individual. But if you have if you have longer sales cycles, once a year might be the case. And so asking them questions about referral, asking them questions about their services and the products are really, really good. But also segmenting and saying, hey, you have been identified as one of our top customers. We would love to hear from you. Here's a $50 gift card or a coupon for your next, incentivizing the survey. That's always nice. Everyone likes that kind of stuff.
So let's set some expectations. So let's say that you send the survey to 1,000 people. What is the
Sure.
Yeah, let's just also, manage those expectations. As humans, we are very busy, and
Yeah.
those of us that are running businesses, but then those of us who just have, soccer practice at 6, right? What is the expectation? And if it is a
Yeah.
number, below a certain amount, do you still find that super valuable?
You do need to get to a point where, and again, this completely depends on your business and the products and the size of your customer base. But if you have two results, you're not getting much from that,
Right.
right? So you're going to need a larger number. I would probably want no fewer than 30, 50, somewhere around that area. But you also kind of want to do the science of this, which is what is the percentage compared to your full customer base. You can get to a statistically significant number. It's going to be higher than that, but it's also kind of a look and feel, right? So does this feel like am I seeing a pattern, consistently across the results, those types of things. So that helps you answer some of those questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Very
But
good.
get more than five.
Yeah. Get more than
Get
five.
more than
Right.
five. Get more than five.
Right.
And also, don't be discouraged, if you do send it out to 1,000 people and, only half of them fill it out, right? That's also going to be the case in many cases. And if you incentivize it, you're going to see a higher number. If you don't incentivize it, you're going to see a lower number. So just setting those expectations. Don't
Right.
feel too bad if they're not jumping to give you your survey information.
Right. And let's talk also about kind of the length of survey. Like you said, you sent basically one question twice a year, but you've done surveys that are longer for a different purpose,
So
I
much
think
longer.
the branding purpose. So, what is the average? Most of us have the attention span of a fruit fly. I do. So, what is,
I- Yeah. I say that a lot of us have, especially with social media these days, a lot of us have the attention span of a narcoleptic goldfish. But
yes.
yes, fruit fly is also the same thing. I You have to be very respectful of the time. You also have to be very cognizant of if you are incentivizing them, you can have a more robust survey. If you're not and you're just asking for their time, you want to be as concise as possible. So under 10 questions is what I would recommend. But the fewer, the better. And asking even just 5 questions. Again, I don't want us to feel like this is an enormous lift
Right.
for us as companies because we're all business owners and, extremely busy with our days. So we want to just make sure that we're balancing that where we're getting value. We're also putting enough effort into it that makes it valuable to us as in the business. And it also helps us in a lot of different ways as well. So yeah, under 10, shorter the better. And if you're incentivizing your survey takers, you can be more robust. So you can even get into the 20 question or even 30 question rounds. 30 seems very long to me, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if it takes, a minute to answer each question, maybe, but more than that, right? So then here's my question on the follow-ups of the surveys that are sent. I can't tell you the
sure.
number of times where you stay somewhere or you rent a car or do something and they want a customer feedback survey. And that's what they call it
Mm,
in these companies. And if you don't respond within 2 days, you get another one. And then if you don't respond 2 days after that, you get another one. Then you get 3 more, and it says
yeah,
your feedback is very important to us. For the large national companies, I think most of us kinda have that eye roll if we give it or we don't give it. Most people are
yeah,
especially if they're not in business with a company that they have maybe a personal connection to, right? They
yeah,
may feel a
yeah,
little less inclined unless there was a problem. Everybody likes to talk about the problems they may have had.
yeah.
But what are your thoughts as smaller business owners, ones that have much more personal connections? Um, what are your thoughts on all of this kind of follow up and those things as well, in keeping in mind the art and science of customer retention, not
Yeah.
the art and science of answer me.
Yeah, and you also don't wanna piss them off, right? You don't wanna be
Right.
annoying. You don't wanna, like, pester them, and I think that, we eye roll at those customer client satisfaction surveys from the national brands because they're just so impersonal, right? And so I don't know where this information's going. Why is it valuable to me to give you my satisfaction survey? So I think framing it differently is also really important, like, when you have a personal connection with your customers, just let them know like why it's valuable to you. everyone's going to say your feedback is valuable to me, but why? What are you going to use? What are you going to do it? What are you going to do with it? So I think just being upfront and having that frank conversation with your customer saying, hey, this is how we're going to use this information. We would love to hear from you. I would be more inclined to take that than just a general message that's getting blasted across 300 million people.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the I guess the implementation. So you get this feedback, you realize that maybe there's a
Yeah.
gap in services, you're going to close that gap.
That would be amazing. That would be a great insight to get. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so then the implementation of that and the rollout of that, I have seen at times where people will roll something out, they may not get immediate response, and this is any business, and they'll pull it back.
Yeah.
I wonder if there is a perspective or a perception that because this was already a client earlier and did business with us earlier, that we would expect a more, uh, I guess, a faster response to our new thing than it would have been. Can we talk a little bit about kind of managing those expectations? So you get it back, you realize it's like, okay, we have a gap in services. We're going to go ahead and we're going to fill that gap and we're going to do the right thing. And then you put it out and it's not selling. You're like, but these are our existing clients. Why didn't they,
Yeah.
can we talk a little bit about your perceptions and perspective,
And that's one of those
especially
things.
the consumer side? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, test it, right? If it doesn't work out, then you can roll it back, right? So those are the things, and you should always be looking at your business and trying to evolve it. And your businesses are intended to change over time. So definitely you are given a compass with the information that you're pulling from your existing clients, and you're saying this will help my loyalty of my customers by providing this additional service. You're rolling it out. It's not necessarily fireworks in the first few months, which it probably won't be, just so you know. Just so you know. Just so you know. Soft launch it, see how it goes. And then if it makes sense for your business, lean into it, continue it. But also don't be afraid to say, this didn't work. Right. Let's roll it back. And that's not necessarily a failure at all. That's just you should be kind of approaching your business in that way where you're testing things and you're trying this out. And if it's working, great. Let's bolt it onto our main services and offerings and continue it for the next 100 years. If it's not working, let's roll it back. So I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as business owners. And I think allowing something to roll out, test it out, and if it doesn't work, pulling it back, there's no harm in that at all. Yeah.
Amazing. So can we recap kind of the step by step if you wanted to go ahead and start looking at your customer loyalty, the number of people and those kinds of things. Step by step, if
Yeah.
if somebody is listening in the audience today and they go, we have actually never looked at lifetime value, or we haven't looked in 6 months,
Yeah.
or we haven't really
There's
actually
probably a lot of you out there. There's probably a lot of you.
we haven't segmented people in a while since we rolled out this thing. How do we wrap our head around that and start to take at least 2 or 3 steps that'll put us on the path to implementing what you're suggesting that would be
Yeah.
helpful?
And Don, I think we should definitely talk about just getting a platform or a tool, right? That is really step number one, is getting a tool like HubSpot or Salesforce, or there's all these different CRMs is what they're called. Those are the customer relationship management platforms. And this is a tool that really holds all of this information about your customers in a single place. So it has all of their contact information. It might be tracking how many sales that they have, purchased from you, and, kind of summarizing that information. Where did the actual customer come from, the source? So you can actually look back at that, which is really nice. But anyway, the tool is really your first step. Because Don, I know that you have, just like I have, worked with businesses where their quote unquote CRM is a Word doc, right? It's a piece of paper somewhere that people are just drawing this information down, which is fine because you're keeping the record. But if that is the case, think about potentially moving into more of a digital tool that allows you to aggregate all of this information so that you can have a very clear view of all of my customers, and then you can start slicing and dicing. That tool helps you facilitate that slice and dice. So then you can start to actually say very, very easily and quickly with a tool, this is my top 20%. So that CR, I mean, we use HubSpot for ourselves. A lot of our clients use a variety of other platforms, and I love them because I like to just sit in there and look at all the things and see where my customers are coming from and, where, how long have they been with us and those types of things. So step one, organize your customer data, potentially use a tool. If you're using a piece of paper, post it on your desk, fine, but organize them, right? Potentially use a tool. And then you start to slice and dice and start to say, okay, how am I defining the top 20%? Is that by their amount of spend with us? Is that, or revenue with us? Is that their longevity or their amount of time as a customer? So define what the top is or how you want to slice that out. And then you get a nice little group of individuals that you can start to look at. You can start to look at those people. Where do they come from? How much revenue have they generated for you? What are their attributes? Maybe there's also a geographic trend that you're seeing there, which is really interesting. And then you can start to craft using one of the free tools like Microsoft Forms to put together a survey and potentially reach out to them and start that process. So I think I'm oversimplifying this because there's a lot of that goes into each of those steps. But if you do those 3 or 4 steps, you're going to be in a great spot.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think if I remember correctly, some of those tools even have reporting by like product or service type as well. So you can look and see who are all the customers that bought package A, who are all the customers who bought package C. And then I think you
Yeah.
can also sort it so that you know when their last purchase was. So maybe you want to reach out to somebody who hasn't made a purchase in whatever the time frame is that's appropriate for your industry, like 6 months or a year.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Or if they purchased from you in the winter, maybe you go and showcase your new summer products, right? Because the propensity of that person purchasing from you is going to be higher. So that's another tactic where those types of tools like HubSpot, for example, makes it so easy because you can group them very easily. Also, HubSpot is not paying me, but to say,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
but but I
You're
do like
most
HubSpot.
familiar with it. You use
I am most familiar with HubSpot. We're certified as an agency with HubSpot, and they have like free offerings. So why wouldn't businesses just jump in and help organize their data a bit to facilitate loyalty like that?
maybe they don't realize how important it is. I know that there are out
Probably
public
not. Yeah.
probably there are a lot of businesses that taking that step into something like a CRM, it's
Yeah.
just a matter of everything has always been done manually or their
Yeah.
customer base, their repeat customers are so well known. Or some things are event based, right? Like wedding planners or caterers. And so I don't
Yeah.
know that they think about setting up a customer loyalty system or some kind of uh, you know, retention system. And I do want to just briefly talk about those types of businesses that are either event driven or maybe they're putting a new roof on your house. The things that feel like or seem like one time sorts of transactions, but maybe they aren't. Because I really want people to kind of think a little more broadly about, okay, so they booked you as a indicator for the wedding, and then you don't expect to hear from them again. There are some perceptions that we have as business owners where we're not generating these kinds of loyalty sorts of transactions because we don't think they're relevant.
Sure. And that's a conversation that I even have with myself a lot, which is,
Okay.
how do I offer my clients, given our services and our expertise and what I consider our quote unquote raw materials, which is just the service base that we provide, how can I offer value to customers differently than you might in the past? So I love the catering example because ours did something really, really fun where they were a caterer. They also did our cake for my wedding. And they have a service where you basically work with them and they make a small version of your wedding cake for your anniversary every year. I love that idea. I love it. And it keeps me in business with them. It's such a huge part of my life, from my wedding. I don't have to freeze that top layer of that cake
Right.
as a lot of people do. But that's a very cool example of looking at your business and potentially thinking of something else that you can do that would add value to them, but also just continue to engage with them in your life. And I go for them for, if we're having a party or something, I'll maybe get cupcakes from them or something like that. So that's a very cool example of, they're not just doing catering for weddings. They've actually looked at their services and thought, how can we potentially add value in other ways?
Yeah, I think that's a great question to ask ourselves. Is, hey, uh, we're not done, right? So you booked us for this single thing, or you perceive your business as a single thing, but you can actually find these creative ways to keep people engaged. Now, you mentioned things like newsletters. Let me ask you this, because again, small business owners, we receive a ton of emails. And again, a lot of them are sales emails over and over with a newsletter sort of facade versus what I guess you're thinking. Yeah, which I think you're saying you want to add value in newsletters and things. So when you start each and every contact to the client, however often is appropriate, the way I kind of like to maybe segregate this out in people's minds is you can do a sales email with a newsletter, but the newsletter should probably be 100% value with a little dangle of, do you want to buy some more? Is that that's kind of your approach, right?
I completely agree with you. Yeah. And the newsletter, mechanism, the function of it, you just need to be careful with that, right? Because it's not intending to be an upsell mechanism. It's intending to be a value add mechanism, to your point, and I completely agree with it. And it also needs to be intrinsically valuable.
Right.
It can't just, I can't write a headline on a newsletter that we put out that says AI exists. Great. What am I going to do with that? Something like that. But going back to your email statement, I just read a stat the other day, which is it blew my mind. The average person in the US gets 121 emails a day.
Holy.
Isn't that nuts? That's crazy. So, and people wonder why maybe my newsletter isn't being read, or maybe, my client satisfaction email is not being filled in. That's because we're just inundated by email as just average citizens. And that also might be something you want to be looking at within your business as well. Is that the right medium for you to be communicating with your
Okay.
customers? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder if there needs to be a little bit more business introspection as to how we're
Mhm.
communicating. I want to say that newsletters sort of feel like the standard in a lot of different product and service businesses, where it's like, oh, we send a newsletter.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, maybe that's not the right medium. So there may be some other available, I guess, locations like posts, or maybe some other
Mhm.
ways to reach out.
Yeah.
I still receive postcards in the mail on occasion too from local businesses, which is
Yeah.
still nowadays snail mail seems to be making a little comeback, and I wonder if that's
Really agree
because
with you.
okay, so is that because we get 121 emails a day and we just click and delete all? Is that what
I
we're doing?
think so. I think
Yeah.
so. It feels more personal to me. If it's definitely more tangible. So there's some psychology there about having a tangibility factor.
Right.
I think that is definitely a reason why. And you see this in a lot in like event marketing, for example. Event marketing is exploding again today because I think people just want that offline feel now, because we live so much online. We're getting hundreds of emails a day, and you kind of want to just turn it off sometimes. And we're wanting to potentially touch that postcard, potentially go to that conference, next month. So we're seeing a little bit of that in a variety of ways. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, again, everybody listening in, and whether you find this today, you find it 2 years after we launch, the idea is that you're going to continue to grow and evolve, and that includes your
Yeah.
strategies. But I think this conversation has been very valuable, because I think we do sometimes spend a little more time trying to get people in the door instead of keeping them there. And I don't mean by locking it up and kidnapping. I
Yeah.
just mean, keeping them on your books and doing business with you.
Please do not kidnap your customers. Anyone that's watching this, please don't. We are not recommending that in any way. Yeah. Unless you have like an escape room, because that's really interesting. But anyway,
Yeah, that's its own genre of businesses, isn't it? The
Yeah.
entertainment space of getting locked somewhere volitionally.
Yeah.
I haven't quite wrapped
Interesting.
my head around that as an activity, but I mean, I know people who enjoy them. So,
For
hey,
sure.
can you tell everyone where they can find you and learn more about you and your services and your company?
Absolutely. So kinetic319.com. Feel free to visit us. We have a ton of information on our website. We're constantly putting out primary research and blog posts and those types of things. All of our socials, we're constantly active on our socials as well. So we have a series that we do every year. Every single week of the year, we put out a Stay Kinetic tip. And it's really stuff that we're talking about today, Don. So, you know, set up a CRM or maybe send an email to your folks that purchased for you last season. So it's a lot of those types of tips that are definitely helping keep businesses moving and evolving and thinking about different things. So definitely follow us there. The one thing that I do want to plug for going into next month, we are launching a brand new package, which is called the Get Moving package. And this is, again, thinking about our business in a different way and adding value in different ways. This package is made fully for small businesses that are, they're up and running, but they just want to get started with marketing. So the Get Moving package allows us to build everything for you, but basically hand it back to you and have full control over managing it, going forward. So launching that next month, Get Moving package. Definitely take a look at that on our website. It's single one cost, takes 3 weeks for us to set everything up for you with your help. And then, we set you guys up for success. I am so excited about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. Whenever you're listening, go check it out and sign up for those tips because we
Yeah.
do get busy and those reminders are incredibly helpful for us to kind of remember what we need to do next because we do sometimes have seasons of very busy and
Yeah.
don't ignore your current customers,
Yep.
right?
And keep
As
moving.
you're doing,
Keep moving.
yeah, just keep moving. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation.
Thanks so much, Don. Thanks everybody for listening.
All right. We'll talk to y'all next time on the next episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to DawnKKennedy.com and you can now check us out on YouTube as well as, of course, any of your favorite platforms that host podcasts. Take care.